Welcome back, everyone. It is an absolute honor to introduce Dr. Abdul Shaban, a distinguished academician and thought leader who will be speaking to us on the topic of academic leadership, governance, and management. Dr. Shaban is a professor and chairperson at the Center for Public Policy, Habitat, and Human Development at the School of Development Studies, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, abbreviated as TIS, in Mumbai. With over 2 decades of experience, he has held pivotal leadership roles, including his tenure as the Deputy Director of TIS Tuljapur campus, excelling in academic administration, research, and institution building. Dr. Shaban's illustrious career is marked by prestigious fellowships at globally renowned institutions such as the London School of Economics, University of Paris, and Erasmus University. He has also been an active contributor to high-level committees and think tanks, influencing policy, addressing socioeconomic inequities, particularly those affecting marginalized communities in India. Dr. Shaban has an extensive publication record in journals such as Economic and Political Weekly and Regional Science Policy and Practice on diverse topics such as urbanization, cultural diversity, sustainable development, and creative economies. He has authored, co-authored, and contributed to numerous books, including influential works such as Mumbai, Political Economy of Crime and Space, Lives of Muslims in India, Politics, Exclusions, and Violence, and the more recent Creative Industries in India, published in 2023, to name a few. In addition to his publications, Dr. Shaban has led and collaborated on major research projects funded by esteemed organizations, including the Economic and Social Research Council of the UK and the European Research Council. His work continues to shape academic discourse and improves policy aimed at equitable and inclusive development. Dr. Shaban, we eagerly look forward to your presentation and the insights you bring to this important theme. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for this kind introduction. And thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to associate with this and speak on something which actually very crucial for Indian higher education. I'm sure that colleagues from across India who are joining us will also contribute in this, because this is something where I'm going to talk is actually evolving kind of area. There can be, the major observations, but also there can be exceptions, what I'm going to talk about. So what I will do, maybe in 45 minutes to 50 minutes, I will take a deep look, what I say, the Indian higher education system, more from a perspective of actually understanding that what they are suffering from and what we can do and how the academic leadership we can build. The academic leadership which I'm talking about basically will come from the understanding what actually going on in Indian higher education system. And so today what I will be talking mostly from the side that what is lacking and what we can do in order to strengthen that. And I am sure that the good points and also the bad points will come out about the higher education in India. How actually I have organized this presentation. This is actually what I feel very crucial, the role of higher education in the society we will look at, and what is the pressure on the higher education, why we are changing institutional complexities in India. We will look at governance, growth, faculty, students, and employability of students, and internationalization, research, and academic leadership. Obviously, the most of the things which I will be discussing, we will be discussing from the social science, sometimes perspective, though it is inclusive very much, but obviously I will be bringing more my own experience somewhere in the whole discussion, and we will talk the academic leadership, what the quality we need to have. So this will be crucial. Now, the higher education in India after the independence was to address the two things. One was that obviously that the distribution of resources in the society, I mean, in the land reform type of kind of thing, where you try to distribute the resources and equalize the society. The second was that we have to determine, the government has to put a goal that where we want to reach, or actually the society needed to put a goal where they needed to reach, and the higher education was to address that. The second thing, that even if the the distribution was not very equal in Indian society, it was expected that the higher education will enable the marginalized classes and social classes to attain higher education, and through that, that kind of wealth or income that were actually they become equal. So the two process was involved in this whole equalization. One was the redistribution of resources, land reforms, another, and the progressive taxations, and then affirmative actions. And the second was that actually the higher education, through which there may be increase in the employability and productivity, which leads to the equalization. So these two were very crucial. And these two why we need it, because we also thought about a democratic society, equal society, and the preamble of our constitution very much says that remains our aim. And that is where higher education access becomes key for every citizens and for every communities, that they can make in a free market kind of situation in which we are, that actually it provides a possibility for their growth. And if the wealth determines, our knowledge is strongly associated with the wealth, and wealth is associated with the power, and then the communities which are marginalized will also create their wealth and also acquire power. And that is what actually goes on. And I am talking in the Foucauldian term, that how actually the knowledge and power, they relate together, and how they determine the course of history or society. And human capital, that's what I say, that associated with the economic growth. So economic growth of the countries, and actually the sharing power by different communities and the citizens and individuals was visualized in the whole process. Uh, and we can see the example of that, for example, in Japan, which actually lacked the resources like minerals and others, it was the human resources which created I mean, a kind of fascinating story of the national development. Similar kind of South Korea. And then we also know that even today, USA stands on, I mean, as a high-powered country. I mean, actually, the superpower. It is because of the human resources and innovations they do. So, university education should be looked from those perspectives, and that is why I wanted to bring it and actually ground it here. That's why we need higher education. Higher education is not only the national growth, but actually the equal development, and also the, I mean, a kind of where the society is aiming for, actually, where they want to reach, that becomes very crucial for us to understand. Now, what are the drivers of change of growth? I mean, higher education in recent year in India, what they have been, one since 90s have been the accelerated globalization. Second is the ICT development. What I say, that why I say that there is a pressure to compete with the global and the ranking kind of thing, globalization, which I say. Second, ICT development, where actually earlier we were not able to travel. I mean, even today, many of our faculty colleagues are not able to travel, but they are competing because of their ICT makes the things, are actually digitalization makes the things available to them. Hmm? Through those publications, those data, and they can compete today, and they can see how the others are growing. So these two are actually driving force. Obviously, there is a demand from the Indians in their middle class for higher education, and for their children, they want to change the fortune of their children, and that actually comes from. They have massively influenced, particularly this digitalization and globalization. They have massively influenced the production, distribution, and exchange of knowledge. Basically, what I say, access, sometimes legal to illegal means through which actually they access the journals in India. But that has actually changed, obviously. However, higher education system in India still remains unsatisfactory. I mean, that's what actually we see to the aspiration of faculty and students, even for the government. So all actually remains, all the society at large, employer they don't find good, and even the society does not find actually the value in that. That is why most of them are sending to outside the country, or actually they say that पढ़ लिख के क्या होगा. I'm just telling in Hindi that what you will achieve by higher education in India. So this is what unsatisfactory. I mean, unsatisfaction also remains with this because the kind of way we are governing it. Now, this complexity, why the dissatisfaction emerges, because we have a kind of tradition in which diverse nature of the higher education institutions and the way we regulate it. Now, just look at it, how actually we are, what kind of institutions we have. We have some institutions which are from the Act of Parliament, central universities. Then there is a Act of Assemblies, state institutions. We have, the state universities. Then we have University Grants Commission, all the deemed universities like Tata Institute even. So that actually becomes the part of this. So now these are actually emerging from different sources. They have different way. I mean, they though the objective remains one, but the finances and governance and expectations remain different from all these three. Then there are regulators. For example, Ministry of Education, ministry like AICTE, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Medical Council of India, and others. They regulate the higher education institutions. Then there are independent institutions under HRD. I mean, now Ministry of Education, like IIT, IIMs, ISERs, and others. Then there are independent institutions under ministry, like AIMS, and then have IIFT, etc. I mean, they have the multiple, the way they are actually regulated and expectations are put from them, and then funding also comes from the different sources. Funding support by DST, ministries, UGC, and then institutions under ICSSR, institutions without government recognitions, that also is there. So there are actually institutions who are getting enough money, those who are not getting enough money. So all kind of situations we have, and there are institutions which are not even regulated. So there are actually, and then again, complexity is there in this whole process. We have stand-alone institutions, higher education. Then we have multi-campus institutions, where the multi-campus, one campus, multi-campus, then affiliating universities. There are universities which have 300 colleges to 400 colleges, and they're burdened and they are not able to manage it. Though things are changing under the NEP 2020, but still the scenario has not massively changed at all. Then we have the highly complex on the governance, high complexity of the governance, and then the opportunities to institutions of excellence, particularly those who are under the ministry, largely ministry, you will find that they have lots of resources with them. But the institutions, those which are actually under the UGC and maybe the state universities, they are struggling even to meet the basic, kind of requirements. So this also remains a kind of fact that different governance system, different ways of managing is also creating lots of vulnerabilities, lots of disparity among the institutions, and that is also happening. Deemed universities basically remain underfunded. State universities remain underfunded. Colleges in rural areas, they are no takers. Sometimes the people open as a private colleges, and there will be one faculty appointed, and the students will be in thousands. So that also remains a kind of a story, and what we see. Now, the governance, even if we look at, we also see that in the governance, the UGC, ISSR, Ministry of all of you know, every month one has to go to get the salaries released sometime from some institutions. And that actually happens. And this hardly contributes to the higher education in India. They flip-flop their policies. Many a time, if you look at these institutions, these regulators, 1 year there is one rule, second year there will be second rule, and the third year there will be reversal to the earlier rule. We don't know where actually we will be heading for, and that is also there. And we have seen in the net, JRF, faculty recruitment, how everything actually you see how actually inconsistent sometimes policies are of even the higher education and continuous within a regime of 5 years. A vice chancellor, a regulator is there, or actually even the chairman of UGC, 3 times he will change decisions on something, and that what actually we find inconsistent actually decision making, lack of trend and forward-looking administration in higher education that remains. And one thing government of India now has tried to create is the leap and leadership in education, I mean, academic program, where actually they are trying to train the people, I mean, the future leaders, and then bringing a kind of sense that how they will be managing the institutions. But obviously, lots need to be done to manage. Only when the government of India comes with that autonomy or that possibility that the rules are stable, they are not changing anymore. There's no flexibility. Sorry, there is no variation over the time in the rules. And head of the institutions, registrar, deans, HOD, all of you know the way we are actually patriarchal system operates. It's a very difficult sometimes for the younger scholars to really negotiate with them. They become like patriarch in the universities, and with the difficulty to even access them. That what happens. Colleges work like schools, and I mean, universities like colleges, which often I say that universities, I mean, if you look at the people where the universities, people need to do research more. They are looking when in teaching like the schools, and then schools actually are like I mean the playgrounds. So this is what happening in most of the thing. I say exceptions are exception, but if you look at if you do a survey and visit some of the colleges, visit some of the universities, you will find the difficulties what they are facing. But still, in this difficult situation, people are working and trying to make their best. Now, growth and funding of higher education, all of you know that 6% of the GDP was promised through the plans and through the Kothari Commission, but this in 1960s, and this has hardly come. And still we are struggling. Sometimes it is around 2.5 to 4%. That is what actually where we are struggling. And this has come to the higher. And then share of the higher education where I mean, there's more need of in the research and innovation, then I mean, money is more required. The enough resources are hardly coming, and and the institutions are told that go and find money. And in India, it's very difficult really to find money for those things, because for the secular education, for the scientific education, the resources are in India is still limited. Only few companies, few institutions are actually those kind of from those actually those organization supports are available, and most of them then still look for the primary or actually their faith-based education, and that's what actually goes on in the country. So quantitative growth of institution has been there. Obviously, in India, you have 40,000 colleges, and then you have about 1,200 universities, but the quality has hardly improved, and that's what I will show in the coming slides. Now, look at the enrollment ratio, how actually we have done. We have done exceptional, obviously, but we have not done as much as we needed to do. And this comparison shows that. I mean, some of the data show that. Now, where actually we have a gross enrollment ratio in higher education, we have reached around 26.3% in 2018-19, around 27% today. Approximately we may be there and where we have reached. But USA, 89%. I know that they are developed countries. Even Russia, 76%, UK, 60% around, Indonesia, 31%, China was 29% in 2000, I mean, 12. I mean, this is the old figure, but you can see that where in comparison with we stand, and our actually situation may have not changed drastically from this. Now, even if we compare the recent data up to 2016 with the China, look at how China took a jump from 2001 onward. I mean, China's enrollment ratio in higher education has gone to about 48%, and we remain still 27%. 2001 onward, and during in India, particularly, 2011 to 2016, a massive jump. I say 2001 or 2006 to 2011, it was very upward curve like China, but we have not done well after that. We have again flattened ourselves 2011 to 2016. So what we have the story of India in terms of the higher education, that GER, gross enrollment ratio, remains low in comparison to other countries, and that is where the human capital formation may not be taking to the proportion which actually be needed to do this. Because if we want to grow and grow faster, there is an equitable, then we need to create the human capital in all sections of the society, and particularly the marginalized section of the societies where actually this human capital was needed to be created, because we cannot actually distribute wealth to them anymore because the land reform is already done and it is maybe impossible now to do this. So what we needed to create the skill in them and high human capital in them, and that is actually crucially missing from them, because they are most often, if you look at the gross enrollment ratio, I have not presented the data here. You can look at the annual survey of higher education, and you can see that what is actually the in comparison to the upper classes, are actually upper groups, are upper caste, the gross enrollment ratio of scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, and marginalized communities, and in rural areas, it still remains lower. And that is where is actually one way. And that is why we see the growth and rising inequalities in India. That is what actually is emerging. Now, looking at other side of the story, faculty, students, and employability of the students, some of the surveys data I will take up here, particularly Deloitte survey, and that is what actually they brought. And that in 2019, and what actually it was found concern in India, 80%. Because if we don't have the good institutions from where the faculty will come, and the government of India is still to allow large scale employment, except in the maybe the private institution of faculty from outside the country. You did not have pilots, actually the people were hired from outside, but in India we have lots of employment concerns also, and many other things, and that is why it remains a kind of we are internally circulating this, and it is a vicious circle that if you don't have a good faculty, you don't have good students, employability is lacking, and then if you don't have good students, you cannot have the good faculty in future. And this is what actually going on. So that what actually say that lack of good faculty remains a concern in India. Employability of students, it remains a kind of also concern, and lack of quality faculty and students employability, that again actually a problem faced by 80% of the institutions are facing this problem. The students. Absence of fresh curriculum that is actually benchmarked with the global standard. 63%, 65%, maybe university or chancellors are telling that this is actually problem, 65%, two-thirds. We don't have global standard curriculum. Lack of global perspective, we are lacking. Maybe we are more focused on actually the what often in the social sciences we call is a methodological nationalism, and that's what actually we focus more actually internally than actually what is happening outside. That has been our perspective. Global perspective are missing. Lack of quality jobs, that is another concern. Increasing fees are another concern, and because we are also entering into the privatization, and that has been going on. Now, faculty vacancies, they also brought this one. And obviously, this is a very dynamic thing. This keeps on changing. But in the central universities, they found that about 5,600 faculties are missing. They are not there, recruited. Indian Institute of Technology is about 3,000. These institutions, and National Institute of Technologies, NIT, is about 3,000. So, state universities, colleges, I'm not counting, and the normal universities. So these are actually the surveys they show that enormous numbers are missing. I mean, the recruitment has not taken place. Faculty positions are also vacant. And in this kind of situation, we have to find the leadership. And that's what actually crucial for us. Internationalization. Now, looking at the internationalization, what is there? In India, particularly most of the universities, I'm not again talking about the exceptions. Few universities, few institutions have done that exceptions, but it has hardly taken off. What actually our experience shows, and where actually we interact with the people, hardly it has taken off. Ministry of External Affairs and Police Department work together to undermine some time, because Ministry of Education will say bring more students, and then there will be visa issue, there will be police department and other issues. So there is a lots of actually bureaucratic processes. It is not as smooth as actually you say in UK, European countries, or in USA, but there's a lots of actually 3 4 departments need to really take care of this. And even if you go to register at the FRRO, which often actually we do from TISS, is sometimes very difficult. Several times you have to go for one students and for registering them. Building Indian higher education brand is still very low. Few maybe IITs, IIMs, and few institutions have done it, but most of the normal universities in India, they could not make their own brand. Student mobility barriers. Uh, obviously there is internationalization, because if you go, we were working out somewhere that how the credit will be transferred, how actually this one, there is a need to really have a kind of regulation where we recognize the foreign universities will take the direct hour, non-direct hour as a total hour of the teaching, and the credit will be assigned to that. But sometimes in India, we don't have these indirect hours, how to count indirect hours and how to assign the credit. And this conversion remains another issue. How we will convert the credit? That actually we often find difficult. Though it is easing out from the earlier situation, which maybe we were doing, but now, still that has not completely gone, and we still have to struggle that convert credit from one system to another system, and how to assign credit for how many hour we will do, how many point or how much grade we will give for that. Faculty exchange remains low, and that is actually because if this our faculty are not able to see that what is going on in the rest of the world, how actually we expect that from those actually limited spaces, they will be able to visualize that what kind of actually achievement they can do. So there is a need for openness, there is a need for promotion of the actually internationalization of faculty, that and globalization of the faculty, that is key for actually in this globalized world to grow in the higher education and also attract students from outside. NAP is a welcome development 2020, but still there is a lots of gap in terms of the financing. So that actually brings some fresh air, but there is another kind of barrier that where everybody talks about the NEP, nobody talks about and actually the changes in the higher education system, but nobody talks about how the funding will be taking place, how actually from where the finances will be coming to restructure the higher education institutions. That is actually our concern now. Now, looking at the world ranking of higher education, this is the data of 2015-16. Indian higher education have not gone up beyond. In the QS ranking, if the world ranking, if you look at, in 2015-16, only 2 institutions were there. And now, even if you look at the 2025, I was looking at, still 2 institutions remain in top 200. IIT Bombay, 118, and IIT Delhi, 150. And these 2 institutions who are actually there, they're again the technology-based institutions. They're not actually the normal institutions, which actually Indian universities type. So exceptions, they are a different brand. Perhaps actually they are addressing only the technology and publication, and that where actually they are able to move forward, and they are flushed with the sometime with the money also. But the normal universities, if they rise, like that will be the day where actually we can celebrate. These are the exceptions. They are coming in. Now, Indian standing in actually international digitalization in parameter in comparison to other countries is the UK, India, British Council yearbook 2019, where actually from the data I have taken. Higher education expenditure in India, if you compare with the other, it remains percentage to GDP 1.2% of GDP. What actually data will show in 2019, that is actually what we find. In comparison to South Korea, where the expenditure is about 8%, UK it is 5.7% of the GDP, and Germany it is 4.9%. So you see the disparity, and that is there. Huge disparities in comparison to the developed countries, because developed countries are developed countries in innovation and actually the science, because they invest a lot on the society through the research and innovation, both the scientific and non and social sciences. Globally ranked institutions, we remain 2, and you look at the UK 30, USA 49, and Germany 11. So we have only the 2 and billions of people. I mean, in comparison to the our weight of the population, we should be having many of them. International students, you can see the international students, we have only 34,000, around 35,000, and you look at other countries, and even our students are running away. Those who are actually can afford, they often go or search scholarship outside. So we are not able to attract much. We are able to only, our own students are moving out most often. Global Innovation Index and ranking, they show that India is 66, and you can compare with the other: South Korea 11, USA 4, UK 3, Germany 10, Canada, Australia 19, and R&D investment as a percentage of GDP, India has only 0.8%, but if you look at other countries, around 2, it is around 2. So only we do only half of what actually other countries are doing. Now, looking at the research for me is actually is a very crucial factor for production of scientific knowledge, teaching, and removing the fake or bad information which actually are circulating everywhere. So the research is the key for the scientific temperament, which NEP also talks about 2020, and it is key for the growth and development. And that is crucial, not only the social progress, but scientific progress and economic progress as well. Obviously, it's crucial for the planning and development of the country. But in India, as you see, the investment on the research, it is given low priority. Only after teaching, most of the universities in India is a teaching university, teaching from the textbook written in India or written outside, and circulating those information rather than producing the knowledge. And most often, if you look at actually talk to the other universities outside India, they will say that they hire the faculty who have experience in teaching. So the 30 to 40% of the teaching often come from their own knowledge, own actually the research, and the 60% may be taken from outside. But in India, wholesale textbook teaching going on everywhere, and that becomes actually key. And that is why the students remain low motivated, because the knowledge is not a new knowledge for them, and actually it is coming from the textbook which are written often 5-6 years back, or actually even 10 years back. The complexity of bureaucracy and compliance, another kind of trouble in the research. All of you know, when you take a project, then you know how actually negotiate with different agencies, and how to manage account, and how to manage the report. All these actually become difficult for the faculty who are equally teaching and busy in administration. And the reason for low ease of doing research in India, like low ease of doing business. We are talking about business, single window, but we are not talking about the single windows for the research, which is key for driving the business and also the scientific temperament and growth of the economy and progress of the country. So what we have, inadequate finance. We are talking about National Research Foundation, but I know that actually it has come up, but there is still lots of things need to be done. I don't know how it will take shape, but it has been very ad hoc, kind of grants from here and there. for the last 20 years, what I have seen, I will come to this further on this. Lack of transparent and third party review of the proposal, that is missing. If you apply, earlier we were applying even the UGC, even we apply to the ISSR or we apply to the ministry, the detailed review report does not come. And that where actually another concern remains, that what for, I mean, how actually the competitiveness of the research proposal is assessed. That is actually one aspect we are asking. Lack of institutional priorities for promotion of research. Most of the universities, even in NEP, I see, even our own institutions where we are there, they are not talking about the research even today. They are talking about more on the teaching. So the faculty in the higher education, even in the top group of the universities, they are given much more teaching than actually given kind of possibilities to do research and funding. That is the key basically for the national growth, or actually the development. uh, and I mean the teaching can be promoted in different way, and are actually bringing more faculty. So that will ease out. But most often, if you see, you talk of the faculty, they will say, oh, they are very busy in teaching. Lack of adequate mentoring, that is another concern. I mean, younger generation who are joining, that culture has been missing, because in India, what we had, largely patriarchal culture, which actually came from our families to our universities. And we don't have that scientific temperament that actually needed to be reformed and needed to be shaped. The leadership needed to come, and that needed to actually create that kind of reform, that kind of shaping process. Then another issue is there, elaborate accounting requirement. We were doing some research. I mean, because it's a cross-country kind of experiences I bring, and if you see the kind of elaborate accounting requirement and financial management, and each chit or each expenditure, even the auto or actually auto rickshaw and other things we need to keep. Most often, if you are doing a research and it involves lots of traveling or actually the meeting people, you will end up collecting more actually the receipt than the research paper. And that what will happen in the happens in the whole process. Elaborate accounting requirement, and actually this is troublesome. And sometimes in some of the universities, we have met people and faculty who say they don't want to take research because it's so elaborate and so problematic that we have not actually, that requires easing out. And that is the key message from what I want to give from this. And lack of adequate infrastructure, because capital expenditure is low. Even if you employ few researcher, it is very difficult to find place for them. It is very difficult to find actually adequate infrastructure for them to really make them comfortable to do research. Then what we have, financial inadequacy, another issue. Open, competitive, sufficient funding is lacking in India and across. I mean, that has been happening. Huge inequality of funding between social sciences and pure sciences. We were looking at that, how much it goes. It is very difficult to really find out from different sources, because it is the research funding is flowing from different sources. And we don't know which actually, what few ministries we know we could capture, and the ICSR we can capture for the social sciences. And we found that huge actually lopsidedness in the funding process. I know the sciences need more money because they have to buy equipment, material, expenditure are more. But in the social sciences also, we need more money, because one has to get, if one has to get a good sample, one has to conduct a detailed research. It is impossible with limited money. Sometimes which comes 5,000, 5 lakh, 6 lakh, or actually sometimes 2 lakh, or sometimes nothing is there. That's what actually happens. Non-public sources of, I mean, fundings are limited. Corporate, international agencies. I mean, obviously, corporates have not come to that culture where they start funding. Only few international agencies where the Indian academics align or actually with other universities outside. For example, ERC. ESRC. These are actually the sources from where they get funding and they get involved with the global team. Indian, funding for in the social sciences, at least I don't know where this global perspective, any funding is available. Like actually what is available from the ESRC or ERC, European Research Council. The similar kind of funding we don't have where we can engage with the others. So that's what actually I was talking. And again, I'm taking that look that how the India is performing in the research and development expenditure. And it is around 0.65, what the data, recent data, World Bank data shows over the, and for the different countries, you can see India 0.65, where Singapore 1.94, around 2. You have Germany 3. So you have these different sources of the data, slight variations, but they are showing that how actually we are performing. And then again, if you time series wise, you plot the research and development expenditure, you see India red line. You see that how bottom on the bottom we are. And look at other countries, even the Brazil, even China, France, where they are located and where we are located. This is the difference. And that difference actually ultimately results in, if we don't invest in our universities, in higher education system, the students are running away. So ultimately, these are the higher education expenditure which our students are incurring elsewhere. These money which we are not able to invest in a free society, in a democracy, students are not going to sit here, relax here that our universities are not providing, then I'm not going to seek higher education outside. They will run away. And that's where the government need to really think about that how much money we are losing every year where our students are running away because of lack of good educational institutions, good spending in higher education research, and actually infrastructure that what actually we are having, and good faculty we are lacking. Again, the similar kind of data, research and development expenditure that India. Now, here I wanted to show you some of the data which some people gathered, and we were also trying to gather that how much ICSSR, Indian Council of Social Science Research, invest. And some of the data Isaac created, and they created the total. Look at how much, 2011, 10, 11. There may be now 600 to 700 crore they are spending from the ICSR. There is a not substantial change in the ratio. And if you divide it, what actually I found that if you divide the ICSR in social science, the research money, then you will have around 50 lakh per university, and maybe the 10 to 15 department of social sciences are there in each university. So ultimately, it comes to 3 to 4,000 lakh or 10 to 15 lakh of rupees every year per department, even maybe lesser. So if you divide it per unit of the social science department, or divide it by the number of faculty of the social sciences, we don't have actually the money at all. It will be turning into the thousands or hundreds. That is the expenditure in the social sciences, particularly we have. And the situation may not be totally different even in the sciences than if you work it out. Now, there is another, what actually have pointed out earlier, lack of transparent and third-party review remains absent. That actually is a major concern. Even in the recent times, we have seen that the government of India has appointed third party from Singapore or Korea for selections of the faculty for some exchange program or some of the, because we could not create institution in India within India. So what actually we are knowing till now, gossips in the universities, that it is the network which brings the projects in the government or somewhere, rather than your standing at all and the scientific temperament the proposal is revealing. So that is actually kind of situation still we are in, though government is trying to change it, but still because it is deep culture, and that is where the government is finding difficult. So it actually discourages many people, and I mean, the whole things remain non-transparent in a big way. That would actually be fine, and it damages the Indian higher education to the core. That what happens. And then there is another trouble that what we have, that our universities are also looking, not actually prioritizing research. Most often, many of the universities, there may be teaching universities, there may be research universities, and most of the universities, NEP is floating that kind of conception now, NEP 2020, but most of the earlier universities, particularly the central universities and the deemed to be universities, were supposed to be doing good research. They were standalone institutions. So the culture of, in many of them, culture of research is still missing. And R&D department remains the most neglected one in the most universities. Some dean will be created, post will be created, but it actually remained very ad hoc. The institutional support and information required, for application, that you are applying for somewhere for funding, that also remains not available. That institutions sometimes even will not encourage that, or actually there is no manpower available who can support you or which can support you. And the rule, and bypassing, are actually going through abiding the compliance of the account departments and taking approval from the universities, from the dean to the registrar to the vice chancellors, becomes sometimes difficult, and it is so elaborate, and that every agency checks it, and there is no single department, single window clearance, and that actually undermines further even the proposals. There is difficult rule. uh, there are difficult rules for the faculty also. In many universities, if you saw, everywhere the duty leaves, 30 days, 15 days, that what the institutions have, that duty leave. And if they have to go for the project, they have to remain 2 months or 1 month outside, actually travel, that the duty comes from their own personal leaves. That is what actually happens in most of the universities. And time to write report in the teaching becomes difficult. So you have the very low quality reports also. And I'm not actually talking about here that there is a low quality faculty also, but actually the time also remains a constraint. And most of the time, if you look at the Indian faculty, are actually Indian university teachers, most often they mobilize time from their family time, not from their regular time in the writing. And that what actually there is a survey to be done to understand how the Indian faculties are managing their teaching and the difficult environment. But most of the experiences and most of the discussion which I had from the different faculties, most often they sit during the family time and they work hard. And so that actually comes up. Obviously, financial constraint, again, the subscribing journal. In an annual meeting of the libraries, often you find the difficulty which journal to subscribe, because there is no funding, there is no money available. And then research, actually often it is not displayed, though the NIRF and other kind of interventions and the QS ranking, now it is research is gaining some importance, and it is visualized in terms of the putting on the notice board or here and there. But still, accounting system, I have talked about it. It is not result oriented, it is actually the receipt oriented, a kind of thing. And that will actually be needed to reform it. Inadequate knowledge of accounting rules among the faculty, that is another trouble. And most of the faculty will say that we will not go and do this because who will stop there is a difficulty in the service. My service may emerge, or actually my pension may be stopped if I make some kind of mistake. So most of the people remain actually afraid of this. I know a faculty who never did in his lifetime project because he was afraid of that how he will manage the money in this difficult accounting system. And if something happens, these are also there where actually the people have faced difficulties in their pension because something has emerged. I'm not talking about the corruption. It is a legitimate things which actually that would have been addressed, but that would have not, that has not been addressed in order to facilitate the research. Bureaucracies of accounting department, that remains. The faculty have to go please everywhere in the administration. That actually remains. Then we have accounting department remains most disliked one, including some of the universities where we have worked. And facilitating that, reforming that remains our agenda most often. Then lack of adequate infrastructure. I have talked again, research lab, software, current journal, uh, inadequate spaces for the research staff remains a big concern. Now, how to enhance the ease of doing business and development? Doing research and development, that what actually I will talk a few things. Obviously, it emerges from the problem. Adequate funding is the important thing. And both the sciences and social sciences. There is, just you look at the chair and sometimes fines are not there in the classrooms. That is where actually we are located today. There need to be one nodal agency for the research funding, maybe for social sciences and sciences. If there is a multiple agencies that need to be made public, and that actually the whole thing need to come out, that for the people can apply. Many faculty do not know from where the money is coming. More transparent third party evaluation, and it need to be made public. That's what actually we need to do. Emphasis on outcome rather than actually the collecting receipt and actually doing the all kind of drudgery that need to be there. That quality of publication that comes out from there, that should be looked at. The quality of report, and the people should not actually address only the account. Ease of service rule for faculty, that is actually long due. Because the faculty cannot travel sometime, then they are asking leaves, going to the field and going to outside conferences. Everywhere it is like pleading, and actually it is network which drives rather than actually a kind of fair rule and enough rule and sufficient rule for everybody to travel, even if the government is not giving money or actually the university is not giving money. There need to be a kind of process through which actually they can get that advantage. And actually, ultimately, it will help the country, help the university, help the higher education system, and actually lead India to a different kind of equilibrium. Then, obviously, higher education institutions need to do a lot. Give research a priority, which actually we have not given in the universities. Exceptions are again exceptions. Make the needed rule, of the regulation, compliances, ethical issues, publications, etc. Lay down it clearly. Don't actually have a kind of something that a chalta hai rule, or actually this also works, that also works. Allocate manpower for the filling up the compliance, application forms, etc., and actually approval process. That actually crucial. Even the budget approval, most of the time, if it is a foreign, then you have to go to MHRD. If you from the Home Ministry approval to actually several other requirement to the university requirement, and the university people are afraid of that the government of India rules, and all these actually complex system. So we need to really work it out some way that it works for everybody. Establish trained and supportive finance and account department that is needed. Train the faculty and research staff with adequate compliance to account rules and procedure, and keep emergency fund, for the from the service charges, which can actually facilitate some research in each universities. Otherwise, universities don't have fund. And even if you ask that outside at a conference, the universities don't have fund. And then you have to really, and if you don't actually expose or don't actually globalize the faculty, the research quality obviously will be limited or actually compromised. Obviously, then many other things: provide adequate mentoring to younger faculty, allocate sufficient resources to the research software, etc., or make faculty more campus-based. That is another trouble in many universities. There are universities, but the housing is not available for metropolitan cities like Mumbai and Delhi and in Bangalore. The 2 hours they travel in the traffic. And then there is a no, I mean, that kind of condition, even going at home, I mean, working is impossible, and concentrate on the research. So that another trouble in the many universities we find, uh, if they are not campus based. uh, and highlight and award the good research, publicize that one, that is important. Some of the opportunities are actually the reform, which are crucial. What I told about what the problems, they may be addressed by the NEP 2020, but the shape of the things which are coming may not be encouraging because of the lack of funding. That is actually trouble. And the second thing, that whatsoever was written in the NEP 2020 and the way it is being implemented, is becomes totally, sometimes we are confused that what is going on, what was written and what actually is coming. The shape is totally a different type, because the people are experimenting all kind of thing that is also emerging that way. And there's lots of confusion. Even if you talk to the faculty, what is the NAP 2020, what you have to implement every 3 months, there is just some circular or something where actually people are running around that, finding from other faculty that what is going on, rather than a clear concrete action plan from the UGC. That actually we find that that's missing. So this whole thing, I mean, obviously there are multiple things which actually I have listed here, and NEP 2020 is a big, actually, that way, I mean, breakthrough. Many things it has recognized, but obviously it needs lots of money. And what actually we indirectly, or actually informal way, what I say, we estimated that it requires not only the 6% of the GDP, for few years, at least for 10 years, you need 10 to 11% of the GDP in order to put the higher education, and particularly education, as per the NEP 2020 compliance, what actually we have created. Uh, so that is a big breakthrough. We need big money and big actually opportunity for the every one of us, that actually if we can work with this NEP and actually deliver. It's a lovely document, many ways. Obviously, the money is the big problem, because the privatization cannot address the Indian diversity. It cannot actually the kind of inequality we have, and it cannot address what will it deliver, that the upper classes will move forward further, the lower classes will move, but with loss of disgruntlement, and the inequality will remain as it is, that we will not be able to address much. Many things are coming up. I mean, that's what I wanted to show, that what actually is coming. I mean, National Higher Education Commission is already planned with the 4 sections, and we needed it sooner, but it's still actually just taking shape. Many things are coming up that will be good. That regulation, what I talked about, the multiple ways we are managing, and multiple affiliated and multi-agency affiliated institutions we have, that actually need to go. Now I'm coming very quickly to some of the crucial thing, that what as an academic leader and leadership we will look for. Uh, I am again bringing in the background that what I talked about, what problems we have. Uh, so what we need in academic leader, with some of the qualities what we need. Obviously, academic leader need to manage what I said earlier. But some of the things which actually may be new here, being connected and making connections. Most of the vice chancellor, most of the deans, if you look at the day they get the post, most often disconnect from the common man and common teacher and the students. That is not needed. You need to build trust. You meet students, meet teachers, understand their problem, then take them forward, because it becomes a status symbol in most of the universities, and for the most of the individuals who become those and hold those posts. And that is what patriarchy in different form status comes in here. Because it defines power, and that what actually emerging in Indian universities. Communications, what actually 3 times I wrote, that it is key. Communicate to the individuals what are your expectations. So communicate with the faculty what are your expectations. Communicate easily and communicate with the teacher. Sorry, students. Communicate with the employer. Communicate with the government of India. Not every time say yes, man. I mean, you should not be yes man. I mean that yes, you need not speak. Sometimes you have to really put your foot down and sometimes advise the people that what actually you need. So communicate humbly, sincerely, and with a perspective, with a vision. That is important. Collaborating and is key. And collaboration who can put the two people together, and you I mean, as an institution, from one institution to another, one faculty to another faculty, and one department to another, that collaboration, somebody who can instill that collaborative spirit from the global to the local to the individual, that actually kind of leadership is key. I mean, that a characteristic. If somebody should be community builder who are academic leader, community builder in the sense that it encourages exchange and actually I mean, there may be many toxic people within the system, so minimizes that toxic environment. So somebody can build those community. Otherwise, in the department, that four faculty, two will not talk with one group, another two will not talk with another group. So this is what actually goes on in the education institution. So an agent of change, a person should be an agent of change, motivates people, and actually change the culture, changes the culture. That's what actually we need. And somebody who should be courageous. But that courage, what I find, because of the kind of regulations we have, that courage often we find missing from the academic leaders, because ultimately they, at the end of the day, they are also employees and they want to have their own pensions. Although nowadays pensions, I mean, the kind of privatization we have and kind of the reforms we have in the pension, most of the people may not be getting pension, but still they are worried about their financial futures. So that is why the leadership is not able to take the bold step. And that is where, when you don't have any risk, you follow everything, then you are actually missing that innovation which is needed in the higher education, which maybe American, UK universities, they are driving for. Then you have uh, stick to the core value that is crucial for the sticking. Obviously, respect for the teacher, respect for the communities, integrity is not negotiable. Community building and excellence, I mean, adherence to the diversity and that respect for the diversity and aligning with the vision and mission which the institutions have is crucial that we maintain it as a leader. Champion for others, that is actually crucial part, because when you become a leader, anybody becomes a leader, the success of others is the success of yours. And as a vice chancellor, as a dean, as a I mean, somebody who is the leading the institutions, should not compete with the normal faculty. But most often, if you see, these are the people who are actually holding the power most often, that travel even in the conferences. So that actually happens that way, that undermines the culture, and it does not encourage the faculty as such to move at the center stage. And consultative leadership, somebody who consults, take decision, communicates. I know there are so many problems in the consultation, there may be oppositions, but this opposition is healthy in the democratic setup, and it is required, because you then you know where to make wedge and how to actually lead the people. Uh, And then another is 10, the use carrot more than a stick. Most of the vice chancellors sometimes use the stick, the punishing. That is not actually sometimes encouraging, but the carrot comes, I mean, the way you can create a positive kind of circuit, not a vicious circuit. And humility and gratitude builds a lot. Actually, our culture tells us, our Indian culture tells us how humility and gratitude are important for this. Now I conclude with this. I know that I talked a lot and on the so many issues, and on this, I mean, some of them are more observation rather than well done research, but they are actually important because they're affecting. We are not asking those questions. So NEP 2020, many ways, what I will say in conclusion, gives some hope, but to I mean realize this hope, we need lots of money. And that money from where it will come, we don't know. That is actually kind of question. Uh, 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 that's what I will say and conclude here. So thank you very much for listening me. I hope I was audible and internet was okay. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Professor Shaban. That was a very comprehensive talk on the state of the higher education system in our country, focusing on the research and development, which is a very integral part of higher education, and the source of funds for it, and which ties to the governance both at the institute level and also the government level. It was a very illuminating talk. Thanks a lot. Now we will take questions from the audience. Uh, Participants are allowed to unmute themselves and ask any questions if you have. Dr. Nayak, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, sir, for very nice and informative presentation. I think sir have told everything, but one thing is in state universities and colleges, actually student-teacher ratio is very high. It is one of the reasons so that we cannot creating knowledge, rather it is only teaching stage. Another thing is most of the time you can say more than 50% of time is going for administrative work instead of teaching and research. And during the NAC visit time, state university and colleges, I think 2 or 3 months academic work stops. So how can we overcome from these things?
Professor Nayak, that what I was talking about, that faculty positions are not filled in. The number of students are increasing. Obviously, the enrollment government wants to increase, the seats are increased. I know in one college in Rajasthan, there is only one teacher about 3,000 students. And there is a college with one principal without any teacher. So you can imagine the situation of higher education. Enrollment does not reflect any quality things. It is only number which actually you can show. But ultimately, it will not contribute to that national development. And even the one person you had, actually you put him in administration rather than actually using him or her effectively in the higher education. So this is, I say that is massive. So I mean, one thing I say, we are capable enough to make a university like a school or college. That what actually has happened. So we take the higher education universities, which need to be like universities in the rest of the world, but we make it like college. Where actually college, I say that colleges, we have more teaching load. University support because they have less infrastructure for research. Universities are more actually equipped to do that. But even universities be made like a school and college, and colleges become a school become again the play school. So this is what has happening. In fact, some of the schools are doing better in the teaching. They maintain that ratio up to 12th level. But higher education is not able to do that. I mean, exceptions are exception. Again, I say, Indian Institute of Science may be there, some IITs may be there. But most of the other universities and most of the academic leader, unfortunately, under the pressure from the UGC and NEP, are further increasing the number of students because the government has an aim to further enroll the students. So the wheresoever in the class was 20, now they have become 60. And the number of teacher, which was earlier 8, has become 4. So this is a reverse direction movement. Most of the, if you look at you do survey, you will find it. And because I have experience of this, some of the things I have seen that is happening, and some of the faculty I have seen. So Professor Nayak, absolutely true what you say. That where we need to correct, and NEP, which is brought by the government, is a good actually opportunity for us. And if the government puts enough resources and UGC takes care of it, I'm sure the situation will who have written a lot on this.
Thank you, sir.
It seemed like it.
Yeah.
Mm. Uh, I was wondering, since you're in the social sciences and you mentioned about the disparity in the funding and all that, are there are there disparities in terms of numbers too? In terms of how many colleges are there, colleges and universities that are providing social science education, high quality social science education compared
I
to
agree.
numbers in science?
No, I remember, I mean, because the academic leader, I know Professor Parasuraman. I don't know whether some of you may be knowing him. He was our vice chancellor. He was in UN agencies and then he came as a vice chancellor. So he used to say that in India, we have large number of colleges where the social sciences is taught, but basically they're not doing the service. And we are missing one institution like IITs, which are totally focused on social sciences. The Indian Institute of Social Sciences, Indian Institute of Science, or Indian Institute of Technology you have, where I got even educated. But if we don't have the Indian Institute of Social Sciences, the key, and it is social sciences is key in different ways for the social progress. What I say that the scientific temperament is the key for the future progress. And if the scientific temperament is not brought by the social sciences, for example, if you look at the Renaissance in Europe, it was not the science and technology which quickly progressed. It was the scientific temperament came which created a durable infrastructure or base for the science to emerge out of this. In India, it is opposite. It is happening opposite. Scientists are emerging, but social science is actually taking a beating, and the people ultimately ending up becoming scientists somewhere else. So this is what I felt that is not sustainable in the long run. And that is the key, and which actually NEP 2020 talks about. And that is where he used to say, because we are in Tata Institute, that is why I can say that he wanted, and he wrote in the front line and in many newspapers, that we need to create a social science institution in Tata Institute, expanding it. And it should be like creating scientific temperament and taking the country to the next generation, to the new level. But we could not also get funding. We are also struggling. So this is how actually the dreams goes out of the leaders. I know, I mean, certain thing we could do, we could not do. That is another question. But there is a need. There's a huge disparity in terms of the number may be larger in the social sciences. Colleges offer the soft discipline like social science, sociology, political science, and other psychology. So considered to be soft and considered to be that even you don't attend classes, but still you can pass. That is a kind of culture in India. Don't go to colleges and go in the examination. In sciences, you cannot do. So you have many colleges like this, and even the universities run like that. So if you have that kind of culture, and at the end of the day, you come and write something and you get the result, that is what is happening. So that is no effective transformation of the human being, and actually formation of human capital also, because you lack that scientific temperament, lack that actually you did not abandon your patriarchy, you did not abandon your social affiliation of that kind of attitude which actually is prevalent in the normal life. How will you become a good academic leader then? Or can you lead the country in the next because you remain embedded in that kind of social milieu and social inequality, which from where you came from. So the university could not transform you that way, the way it needed to transform you. So that is actually problem with the social sciences, and social science research is really needing some support, because if you divide ISSR money by the number of institutions, no, you will have in hundreds or thousands per faculty or per institutions. That is what actually from, and sciences also. It is not that actually social sciences. Sciences are also suffering from.
There's no plan for any sort of Indian Institute of Social Sciences or anything of that.
I mean, nobody talks because
No?
social sciences are very difficult. Difficult in the sense because it is aligns with the lots of political things, and
Right.
that is why nobody wants social sciences.
Right.
Because if that actually crucial part is there, because the social science enlightened person will have several point of view, which may not be liked by the conservative element in the society, and that is where it also receives a beating.
It happens pretty much with science as well. So
Yeah.
with social sciences, I can only imagine.
Yeah, this is what.
Professor Kakkar, you want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yes, yes. This is Vipul Kakkar from Department of Mathematics, Central University of Rajasthan. So, what I'm looking that as you must be aware of the HEFA, Higher Education Funding Agency.
Huh.
So, government is providing loan to institution, this educational institution, and on the other hand, the government is saying that you generate the money from your resources. So, what I'm looking in future that it will be a huge loan on the this educational institution, and somehow the government will sell some department to any corporate sector, and he will say that now this corporate will come, he will be leading this department. So, what is your view on this scenario?
I absolutely, Professor Bipul, I agree you. I agree with you. Uh, I mean, higher education, uh, our actually education is not. I mean, giving is not doing business. And uh, we are in the universities. If we take loan, I'm sure that we will not be able to pay. I'm sure. I mean, I can be sure. There may be, if I have all the freedom and I use that money to generate something in some area, like in management or in the medical sciences, maybe something I'm able to generate some money. But in the social sciences, for where we will bring money, and in even the sciences, if you're doing basic research, how will you generate money? And second thing, and when the election comes, the whole staff in the universities and colleges are deployed for 1 month to somewhere else. If all actually things are there, I mean, this thing came because in Maharashtra we had a election, and then almost 190 people were taken from my Tata Institute. So we got. So this is how actually the whole system is running. We need to really some way manage our universities, some good way, and there is a need for total new thinking. And this loan process, no, it will end up like farmers, where the, I mean, it is consumption. It is not actually profit generating institutions. They are not still in India. Most of the Western institutions are able to make profit because they do research in the medical sciences. They have wonderful kind of research facilities. We don't have research facilities. They are in the management because all the big tech companies are located there. From the world over, they garner money. They suck the money from the Amazon to Google and to the Microsoft. All of they are located there, and they will not do. Then who will do? And they are $1 trillion economies. If you look at the Google, 2 trillion, and we are want to make our country 5 trillion, and we put the Google and Microsoft, they are equivalent to our GDP in the market capitalization, if you look at it. So look at those companies, we can compete with them where they are doing. So in India, particularly, we need to create. I will go to somebody, who wrote a very good economist who wrote the Asian drama that time, uh, and I'm just forgetting his name. He wrote that the planning in these countries. He wrote about newly liberated countries in 1950s, and he said that we need to really create the institutions and infrastructure in these countries in order to make this country further successful, because we create the environment on which they can grow. Indian universities need creation of those infrastructure and those environment, then they only can generate further profit or actually further money from there. For example, for the foreign university and American universities, UK universities, these are the Chinese, these are the Indians, or Africans and Arabs. They go there and pay huge amount of fees, and that is why they are running so successfully, because we don't have good universities who will come out to us. Our own students are not coming; they are running away. So, it's very difficult sometimes to retain a good, bright faculty in India. A younger PhD. So remuneration, we don't have that culture, so they run away. So there is a lots of things need to be done. I hope the government of India, through the NEP 2020, will take some stock of that and actually invest, not as a loan, but as a needed social sector expenditure, social sector expenditure, which is crucial for taking the country forward. Maybe in the 21st century we are already in, but in the next half, what I can say.
And
Yeah,
I have another question. And some foreign universities are coming to India. So this bill was initially proposed in UPA government, and now the foreign universities are coming to India. So with what intention they are coming? They are coming to serve Indians, or they have some other hidden agenda? They are coming.
I know this. For some people, I mean, very quick response to would be that they want to make money. They are making money in USA. They are making money in UK. Now, what they thought that people are coming to America, UK, and many of them are not able to come, but still we can go, and the middle classes we can tap. So the middle classes who want good education for their children, they are ready to pay, and the bank loan has also become easier. So they are entering, and many parents like us are also indebted. Not only we are indebted with the housing loan, but indebted with the education loan also. So a generation of indebted Indians we are creating, even because of the higher education system we have created. So most of the, if you look at the most of the teachers, they don't want their children to be studying in India. I mean, I'm telling this because my own experiences and my own observations, and this may be very, I mean, kind of wide. I mean, the kind of statement I'm making it a very globalized kind of thing, but I have experienced it, and I've seen people doing it, and they are taking loan from the banks. So HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, SBI, education loan they are taking, and the farmers are also taking loan again. Even I say that my own institutions, we were facilitating that the people take loans so that they can pay, because they were not able to pay the fees. And further, I say this should be, we should not do, be in debt again the farmers. Several letters we needed to issue to the banks to facilitate those loans. And we know also equally, the job market and employability is not so good in India. Even the children take the loan, the families will be indebted for a long time. That is also happening. So it's a very vicious circle, unless we, I mean, put together a good university system, and then the loan also becomes useful. Otherwise, again, this expense is goes, particularly in India, goes nowhere. What our experience shows.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining, and especially thanks to Professor Shaban for taking the time and enriching our evening. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Thank
evening.
you so much. Thank you so much. It was really pleasure talking to you and interacting with the scientist. Thank you so much. Thank you.